Becoming unstoppable in life is far more than a word. It's a lifestyle. And in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to do that. Have you ever wanted to actually take the time to conquer every single thing that comes in front of you? With absolute confidence, without being shaken, without being overly taken advantage of with adversity or anxiety or feeling of overwhelm? Well, I'm gonna give you some tools today that I personally use to keep myself in good, healthy mindset to help me conquer everything in front of me and continue to try again every time I fall down. Why? Because I know that this is the secret to living a fulfilling life, developing an amazing business and amazing relationships. And your best part is, you can do it with ease. Here we go. All right, so as I told you before, one of the things I want to do is I want to walk you through a couple key concepts of how I personally take the time to keep myself in a high energy state, with clarity of mind, with peace and direction, and with harmony of soul. And the reason I want to do that is because I want you to be able to take advantage of the same tools that I use to get myself prepared to do the unbelievable and the unthinkable and the amazing, if you will. You see, I've discovered a long time ago that if you live an unstoppable lifestyle, there's really nothing you can't conquer. There's really nothing you can't do with enough faith and resilience to believing that you can do it. You know, recently I was actually proposed the questions like, Stephen, look, you've built these other businesses. Why don't you go build $1 billion business? You know, and the crazy part is like, I was thinking to myself, it's like, I can, but why? Why do I want to do it? And unless there's a why behind what I need to do, I don't typically lean into it. So until that why became authentic to me, there was no reason for me to pursue that goal. Now, your goal may be something completely different. Your goal may be starting your first business, developing a beautiful relationship with those that you love, overhauling your life, overcoming addiction. There's all kinds of different things that could be your highest priority goal to make sure you're living your best life possible. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we're after, is living our best life possible. Now, when I work with entrepreneurs a lot of the things that we shift is in their energy and their mindset on how they're supposed to show up in the world on a day in and day out basis that gives them the freedom to make qualified choices and receive divine downloads in a way that helps them proceed in their day-to-day activities. This actually is another level of high-performing habits as we begin to walk down this road. So let me give you a couple different things that I think will be pivotal for you that I want you to really look forward to and lean into. Now, if you're a dude like me, right, you're probably gonna think some of this is woo-woo. And to be honest with you, I thought a lot of it was woo-woo too. That was until I gave it a shot and a lot of it worked. So the first thing I wanna talk about is I wanna talk about setting the intention or setting the stage. Each and every day when your feet hit the floor, you have the chance to set the intention of what you want that day to be, right? And you may be going through some hard stuff. In fact, right now, while we're recording this video, I'm going through a hard thing in a specific pillar of life. But I'm gonna use the same techniques I'm sharing with you right now to manifest or transition my way or transform my way out of that circumstance because it works. So let's talk about intention. You see, intention can lead to affirmation. Affirmation can lead to thought process and then reprogramming the subconscious mind. So one of the ones that I use is my daily affirmation that I use in conjunction with prayer and meditation. I always say prayer is there to say, meditate is there to listen, affirmations are there to reprogram, okay? Now, when I say the word affirmation, all you're gonna be doing is sharing love and generosity with yourself. I know, again, I understand it sounds woo-woo, but it's not woo-woo, it works. And rather than look at all the scientific evidence that supports it, matter of fact, and ignoring it, I would rather lean into it and start to actually create a pathway to actually health and wellness so I can actually live a wonderful, abundant lifestyle with those that I love, doing things that I love to do, and actually create an impact that will live me long term, all right? So this affirmation I do for me, and you can write it down. I don't care, it's not gonna hurt my feelings whatsoever. It's mine, I'm gonna repeat it, and I typically repeat it 3 times a day in my mind if I'm around a lot of people, or out loud if I have a chance to be by myself where I feel most comfortable, most safe to do so. So here we go, here's the affirmation. I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am wise, I'm a steward of the Most High, and I love you, Stephen. That's right, I say I love you, Stephen at the end of it. And I promise you the first 3 or 4 times I did that, it felt weird. And then I did it while looking in the mirror and I actually began to cry. And the reason I began to cry is because if you think about it, most of us growing up as children rarely hear the words in an authentic way where somebody's dead eye contact with us and affirming us that we are loved, we are cherished, we are safe, we are secure. Now, when you look at that on the outside, you're like, man, there's no way that works. Until you realize that the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And because the eyes are the gateway to the soul, when you lock eyes with yourself, you're now pouring into your soul an affirmation that your soul so desperately craves and needs. So let's do that again. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am wise. I'm a steward of the Most High, and I love you, and insert your name. I want you to say that 3 times a day for the next 30 days and see if you don't automatically have a greater appreciation for who you are, your divine worth, and your ability to step up and actually make a difference in the world based on your unique giftedness. You see, we all have triggers and traumas that basically activate us from time to time. There's different responses that we say and do things sometimes that we wish we could take back. Well, the trick is when you actually use some of these programming techniques, inevitably what happens is you not only do you build an unstoppable lifestyle, but you stop making mistakes like that. You stop reacting and start responding, or choosing when to respond in many cases. Each of these can be a very healthy way to deal with stresses, anxiety, feelings of overwhelm, dealing with challenges. And the best part is you're going to be continually doing it, which means you're going to be continually making it stronger. And much like building a muscle, the more push-ups you do, the stronger your chest gets. So the more of these assignments, more of these assessments, if you will, that you do with your mind, the stronger your mind gets. And as a byproduct, the more unified your mind and integrated get with your soul. Again, I know it sounds woo-woo. If it didn't work, I wouldn't be saying it, especially on camera where millions of people can see it, okay? So consider this. Consider what if it's true? What if you just spend the next 30 days trying that one technique out and see how far it actually takes you? All right. The next thing that I want to do is I want to actually build a routine of activating myself in a responsible way on a day-to-day basis. So most of us, a lot of times, will get up, we may have a cup of coffee, we may go pick up our iPhones, or we're distracting ourselves from being present with ourselves. I want you to stop being distracted with yourself so you can become more present with yourself. And here is how I'm currently doing this. So first thing in the morning, I typically set my alarm between 5 and 5:30. I wake up. I'm going to spend the first few minutes in the affirmation zone, the second few minutes in the gratitude and the prayer zone, and the third few minutes in the I want to be of service and the meditative zone. When I do those 3 segments in sequential order before I even get out of bed many times, or I'm kneeling beside my bed, what happens is I'm setting my day. This is before I pick up the iPhone, before I look at the Instagram, before I check my email, see who texts me overnight. This is before all of that. I'm setting my intention on my well-being, on my integration, on my soul's work. And as a result, I typically can go throughout the day being less activated, less overwhelmed, and less full of anxiety, even in times of immense distress. This is known as a practice of mindset control or mindset reset. When you can walk through a mindset reset, inevitably what you're doing is you're now programming your mind to respond in a way that is conditional to your behavior patterns and what you want. The subconscious begins to slowly take a back seat. The conscious mind begins to slowly step forward. And now you have balance between the subconscious and the conscious in order to make things holistic and true and grow. So let's practice that for the next 30 days. Seriously, let's go ahead and put it to work. You got nothing to lose. Nobody except you and your house is going to know you're doing it. You and me. But the reality is I'm there with you trying to help you win the day. Okay, so let's do it that way. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and get active. So I go through the prayer, go through the meditation, go through the affirmation, set my intention, create my process, create my path, get in peace and harmony, and I hit the gym. Now for me, I do the gym in the morning. You may do it in the afternoon or may do it some other time. You may decide to do yoga, Pilates, you may go for a walk, you may swim, you may go for a hike. At the end of the day, what you're ultimately trying to do is you are trying your best to activate the physiological response to anchor the emotional and the spiritual response we just set the intention of. This is a form of integration. We're bringing the physical body into the mental body, into the spiritual body, and we're integrating the two at the same time. A lot of times, this is when the greatest downloads happen. So when I typically go to the gym, I will typically pop in some key music that allows me to then brainstorm. And in between sets, I might have notes to jot down or quotes I want to jot down or an idea for a concept or clothing line or any number of things that could make a lot of sense to me. Because at the end of the day, that's when the downloads come. And some of your most intuitive moments and operating moments are going to come from those moments. So put yourself in peak state to do that. Then I'll come back to the house. I'll go ahead and get my day. I set my day up in 15-minute increments. And I take on meetings every 15 minutes. And yes, you can take a bunch of 15-minute increments and bunch them together and call it a day if you want to. For example, my buddy Kyle and I, we're shooting video for basically the entire day, right? However, each of the clips is 15 to 30 minutes apiece, which means it's either 15 minutes or 2 15-minute pieces. Still the same thing. right? You want to start to think about how you prioritize things. You see, when you don't focus on prioritizing things, the things that you don't prioritize actually take over your life, right? The bill you have to pay you haven't thought about, the child you have to pick up, and oh my God, I'm late. Like, there's so many different things that we do in auto response rather than taking the time to plan the action, right? Setting this priority piece actually really works. All right, so let's go through the rest of the day, right? We've worked on the mind, we've worked on the body, we've worked on our desire, we've worked on our intention. Now we want to do is we want to anchor that even further. And typically through the course of the middle of the day or at the end of the day, I want you to consider doing something they call somatic healing work. And yes, I know you're going to say, woo-woo, you're a tough guy, you bench press 1,000, you drive a big truck with big tires, and I guess I got news for you. You still feel unworthy, insignificant, and you don't feel great about yourself all the time, regardless of how big your tires are. Let's be honest. However, you could feel amazing. You could stop chasing the brass ring and start chasing the real you. And you do that through this work. Somatic work is a form of converging breathing technique with meditative practices, typically with a guided instruction to help you actually do what some people call energy work, some people call shadow work. I call it Holy Spirit work because I'm a Jesus guy. That's when, ironically, I had the most encounters with Jesus is doing this work. It's where you can unlock trauma that's actually triggered and hidden in the body by physical responses. It's how you actually act or you deactivate or de-escalate an activation or triggering happening within yourself, which allows you to have a better response to life at hand. You're going to become more stable, more peaceful, more unified. You're not going to feel like doing everything all at once and being like really aggressive or mean-spirited or whatever. Like, I don't know. There's just a benefit to it, right? Shalana Ayana has a great book called Becoming the One. Henry Amar is a good friend of mine. He has the Inner Circle. Paul Willis is a great life coach of mine that I've been using for a number of years, who kind of operates in the energy sector as well. All of these are different tools and resources that you can put together for yourself in an effort to better yourself and make yourself more whole and more unified. You see, when you grow up like I did in pretty like difficult circumstances, everything from homelessness and going through embezzlement, having family members steal money from you, not having parents around a whole lot when you're growing up, having different parents who struggle with different things for a good chunk of their life. Thank God they're better now. Like, all of those types of things play into your quote unquote childhood wounding. And when you ignore your childhood wounding, you're actually ignoring a huge part of yourself. And now that you're an adult, what happens is when you don't actually take the time to develop this component of yourself, basically you respond as if you're that child. Whether you're at 6, 15, 16, 10, 2, whatever, you typically respond based on that behavior pattern of the child. So by doing the somatic work, essentially what you're doing is you're reunifying the child version of you with the current adult version of you. And basically you learn to love one another and integrate. The next thing you know, all of a sudden you stop reacting the way you used to react. You stop being aggressive when you didn't need to. You stop making bad decisions when you used to. You just change. You transform from the inside out. It's like Jesus goes into your life right now and just rips out every single wound that's ever been there and replaces it with love and light and grace and mercy. And as a result, you become more unified and more peaceful. Okay, next up, I want you to begin to use the things I've already talked about to overcome your limiting beliefs and how you listen to critics. I have a couple of rules that I use with critics. First of all, if they're not empowering and encouraging me and they're not using that love and grace and mercy to communicate something I need to work on, I throw it away. I don't do criticism. I do growth. I don't listen to people tell me how awful I am or how bad of a mistake I made or how I didn't meet up to their expectations or whatever, because I realize that's their wounding, not my problem. It's their responsibility. It's my responsibility to show up as my best self, continuing on a regular basis. Now, if it's somebody I know, like, and trust, and who has a pattern of pouring into me, and they tell me I have a blind spot, I'm 100 times more likely to walk with them and work with them. Does that make sense? Why? Because there's routine, there's relationship, there's these bridges that are already built to do that. So I want you to consider doing that for yourself. Like, if someone critiques you, throw it away. And here's the thing, the closest people to us are typically the most critical of us. In their mind, they might be doing it out of love. In reality, they're doing it out of fear and their own trauma or their own wounding of sorts, right? Because if you really love somebody, you want to deliver the thing that they need to hear the most with as much love and appreciation and inspiration as you possibly can. And if you do that, you're going to have a great time in integrating all these parts and pieces. As far as self-doubt is concerned, what is self-doubt? Self-doubt is nothing more than limiting the belief that you've chosen to believe that somebody else put within you, or based on using your current circumstances to predict your future circumstances. Your current circumstances are your current circumstances. They are not a predictor of your future circumstances. Should you do the work and make the change you need to make within yourself to fully integrate. When you want to become unstoppable in life, so much of becoming unstoppable is so much built on resilience and pushing through the hard times. The trick is not getting re-traumatized while pushing through on the hard times. And again, I've got some significant ones. I've been homeless. I've had embezzlement. I've been betrayed in relationships numerous times. I had betrayal in my family. Like I had baggage. And by not doing the work, I'm actually harming my future relationships or current relationships based on not doing the work. So I made a commitment to myself not that long ago that I'm going to do the freaking work. Whatever's in me that shouldn't be there, I literally want Jesus in my heart. I want to ripping that stuff out. Like, get it out. Get it. Because I want to live my best life. I want to live free and fully fulfilled. And I know you do too. The final thing I want to share about becoming unstoppable will probably blow your mind a little bit because it's a little, unexpected. And that is the power of actually giving back. You'll find that when you give more, you receive more. And I'm not saying that's a bit of a prosperity kind of thing. I'm just saying that tends to be what happens. You may get it back in a different way. Like you may decide to donate a bunch of money, but you may get more affirmation and love from a family member or somebody close to you, right? I believe that God deals in divine value. So when one person puts value on, when they get an overload or expression of that value, they feel deeply connected. For some folks, it might be love, it might be money, it might be relationships, it might be children, it might be business. There's lots of different ways in which God can show up for you in your life, specifically, to help awaken the better version of you. What I do know is when you stay in a state of anxiety and overwhelm without getting back to gratitude and harmony and really just like synchronizing yourself, you're actually harming yourself. So my good buddy Chris Hogan likes to say, it's hard to be hateful when you're grateful. Seriously. Like you can't actually have those two emotions happening in your soul and in your spirit at the same time. You can have a transition where you're moving from one to the other, but you can't have both. So why not choose gratitude, right? One of the ways that you can show your gratitude is to find a need for someone else that you can solve. And in some cases, it may not cost you a penny. It may just be a close talk with a friend. It might be taking some groceries in for someone in need. It could be pushing a shopping cart. It could be picking up after a litter on somebody's like watch as they're trying to like build their business and they can't have time to get to it. It could happen 1,000 different ways. But the principle is if you will focus on serving, you will also receive. Those that serve tend to receive, period. And again, it may come in different ways, but when you look at your journey, when you look at these types of things, I'm telling you, this gratitude piece, this service piece, this way of like really integrating yourself into all these components creates a whole unified version of you. And when you have a whole unified version of you, you can literally withstand the greatest of storms without coming unglued. And when those storms do come, because you're a bit more like a pine tree with deep, deep roots, or a palm tree with deep, deep roots, they both have them. What happens is you take the storm head on, and when the storm's gone, you grow bigger and further faster. Your leaves get bigger, your branches get bigger, your stalk gets bigger. You become an expanded version of yourself. And the quicker you expand yourself, the quicker more opportunities are going to flock to you, and the abundance is going to kick in like droves. Anyway, I know this is a bit woo-woo for content that I typically share, but it's true, and it works. And if it was not so, I would not tell you. So I want you to try to put some of these practices and principles into place, especially if you're going through a difficult time right now. I gave you some added resources, mentioned some other names in the video. Feel free to research these folks. I'll try to get my team to put them in the notes as well for you to click on easy links. But in the meantime, I want you to know how important this work is. I also want you to know how important you are. I want you to know how much value you can bring to the world. I want you to see your divinely created value so you make great decisions for yourself and begin to conquer everything in front of you. Okay? As we wrap up, I want you to check out the 8-Figure Mindset Makeover. Again, it's a resource that I created just for you that allows you to learn to think like an 8-figure entrepreneur and an 8-figure mindset, which means if you're currently making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, and below, this is a resource that's going to change the game for you and help you understand really how 8-figure entrepreneurs think and how to create an 8-figure lifestyle. So with that being said, love you to death. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much love. Peace.